On December 21st, 2012, the world held its breath. Newspapers, television anchors, and survivalists all repeated the same whisper. The Mayans predicted this day. People stocked supplies, built bunkers, and turned their eyes to the sky, waiting for a silence that never came. But while millions prepared for the end of the world, few understood that the Maya had never spoken of an ending at all. For them, time did not die. It transformed. The Panic of 2012 was born not from ancient prophecy, but from modern misunderstanding. The Mayan long count calendar, one of the most complex systems ever created, was reaching the end of a great cycle called a baktun. And when the 13th baktun came to a close, it wasn't meant to mark destruction, but renewal. In Mayan belief, every cycle of creation must collapse, only to give birth to another. The end of one world simply made space for the next. To the Maya, time was alive. It was a living rhythm, a divine conversation between the heavens and the earth. Each sunrise, each eclipse, each shadow cast by a temple was part of a dialogue between gods and mortals. And if that dialogue was ever broken, if humans failed to perform the sacred rituals that kept the cycle spinning, the universe itself could begin to unravel. That was their greatest fear. Not apocalypse, but silence. But somewhere between their temples and our textbooks, meaning was lost. The Western world saw a countdown. The Maya saw a rebirth. And when that ancient calendar reached its final day, our panic revealed a truth far older than the stars above us. That even in the modern age, we still fear time more than we understand it. Long before telescopes or written clocks, the Maya measured time with the precision of gods. Their cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copan, Calakmul, rose like stone calendars themselves, aligned perfectly to the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. Every pyramid was a clock tower, every temple a cosmic instrument, marking not just years or seasons, but the heartbeat of creation itself. To the Maya, time wasn't linear, it was cyclical. Each era or world age began with divine sacrifice and ended with catastrophe, floods, fire, or darkness, before being reborn again. The universe was eternal, but its forms were temporary, and humanity's duty was to keep the rhythm alive. Their priests, trained in astronomy and mathematics, became timekeepers, men who could predict eclipses, solstices, and the return of Venus with uncanny accuracy. Their system was astonishingly advanced. They used 3 interlocking calendars: the Hab, a 365-day solar cycle, the Tzolkin, a 260-day sacred cycle, and the long count, which stretched across thousands of years, tracking the great cosmic cycles known as baktuns. Each baktun lasted 394 solar years, and 13 of them formed a grand cosmic cycle of roughly 5,825 years. When the first baktun began, the world was young. The gods had just shaped humanity from maize and breath. When the 13th baktun approached, it meant the world had aged beyond recognition. To the Maya, this wasn't superstition, it was balance. Creation demanded destruction. Just as day required night, so too must every age eventually dissolve to give way to the next. Yet unlike most civilizations, the Maya didn't fear this truth. They recorded it. On stelae carved deep in jungles, they etched dates that stretched millennia backward and forward. They mapped not just their past, but their future, a timeline that reached far beyond their own empire's lifespan. It was as if they had seen eternity, divided it into cycles, and then dared to measure it. No other ancient civilization viewed time with such intimacy. Where others built monuments to defy decay, the Maya built theirs to track it. To them, eternity wasn't endless, it was recurring. And their empire stood as living proof that even stone could serve as a heartbeat of the cosmos. To the Maya, every sunrise was a divine promise renewed, proof that the gods still remembered their creation. But that memory came at a cost. For time to move forward, something had to be offered in return. In their cosmology, the universe was built on cycles of sacrifice and rebirth. The gods themselves had bled to ignite the sun, and humanity's role was to ensure that sacrifice was never forgotten. Every ritual, every offering, was not an act of devotion. It was maintenance. Without it, time could stop, the sun could refuse to rise, and the great calendar would fall out of rhythm. Presiding over this cosmic order were gods who each carried the burden of time's movement. Itzamna, the celestial scribe, ruled the heavens and gave humankind the knowledge to write, to count, and to record. Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, known as Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs, was the living bridge between worlds, descending from the stars and rising through temple staircases, aligned with equinox light. And in the underworld, the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, waged an eternal game against the lords of death, ensuring that life and death continued their endless dance. Their stories were not parables. They were astronomical records wrapped in myth. When Kukulkan's shadow slithered down the steps of El Castillo in Chichen Itza during the equinox, the people saw the serpent god return, a celestial performance scripted by architecture itself. When Venus vanished from the dawn sky and reappeared days later, it mirrored the hero twins' descent into Xibalba and triumphant return. The heavens, the myths, and the calendar were one interconnected mechanism, a divine clock where gods were both gears and guardians. Even warfare was timed according to the stars. Kings waged battles and performed sacrifices during Venus risings, believing victory was cosmically ordained. They fought not only for land, but to synchronize human blood with celestial movement, the lifeblood that kept eternity turning. This is why their monuments feel alive, even in ruin. The serpent still descends, the shadows still fall, the stars still align. Time, for the Maya, was not an abstract measure. It was a sacred being, nourished by ritual and held together by memory. To neglect it was blasphemy. To honor it was survival. And as the 13th baktun approached, their myths warned of a moment when those divine cycles would meet again, when the gods would return not in fire or flood, but in silence, waiting to see if humanity remembered its part in the rhythm of creation. When the Mayan long count calendar reached 13.0.0.0, it was never meant to be the end of time, only the completion of a vast celestial cycle. Yet somewhere between stone glyphs and modern translation, meaning was lost and myth was reborn in a different age. The date, translated into our calendar, fell on December 21st, 2012. It marked the end of the 13th baktun, a cycle that had begun more than 5,000 years earlier, around 3114 BCE, according to Mayan records. For the Maya, this was the equivalent of a clock striking 12, a signal of transition, not destruction. But centuries of cultural misunderstanding had already set the stage for panic. The confusion stemmed from a single broken inscription known as Tortuguero Monument 6, discovered in the Mexican state of Tabasco. It references the end of the 13th baktun and the arrival of the god Bolonyokte Ku, a deity associated with change, conflict, and renewal. Nowhere did it say the world will end. It merely noted that this god would descend in glory. But for Western eyes, accustomed to linear time and apocalyptic prophecy, that sounded like Judgment Day. By the time Spanish colonizers encountered Mayan texts, they had already begun erasing and rewriting indigenous cosmologies. The notion of cyclical creation was alien and threatening to a culture that saw time as a straight path from Genesis to Revelation. Over centuries, the ancient system of baktuns was forgotten until archaeologists rediscovered it in the 19th and 20th centuries. And when that final date was calculated, the world mistook cosmic renewal for cosmic annihilation. As 2012 drew near, the myth metastasized, Hollywood turned it into spectacle. Conspiracy theorists declared planetary alignments, solar flares, hidden comets. Even scientists were asked if time itself could end. The same fascination that had once built pyramids now fueled online forums. The fear of the unknown hadn't changed, only the medium through which it spread. Meanwhile, in the Yucatan and Guatemala, descendants of the ancient Maya gathered quietly in sacred sites. They burned incense, chanted prayers, and waited for the dawn. For them, this was not the end of anything. It was a reset, the start of a new cycle in the eternal turning of worlds. When the sun rose, it was not a sign that the prophecy had failed. It was proof that it had always been misunderstood. The calendar had not run out. It had simply looped back, like it always had, carrying humanity into another cosmic round. The only thing that ended that day was our illusion of understanding time. Every empire eventually asks the same question: who controls time, man or the divine? For the Maya, time was not a god to be worshipped, but a balance to be maintained. Yet across the world, other civilizations began to deify it, to see it as judgment, destiny, or punishment. And in that transformation, humanity began to fear what it once understood. In Norse mythology, the end of time was Ragnarok, a cataclysmic battle where gods and giants would destroy each other, only for the world to rise again from the sea. In Hindu cosmology, time was divided into yugas, endless cycles of creation and decay that repeated for eternity. And in Christian scripture, time became linear, a single divine timeline leading to the final revelation, when history itself would be closed like a book. Each of these faiths looked at time differently, yet all shared one thing: the belief that its end would reveal truth. But for the Maya, truth was never waiting at the end. It was hidden in the rhythm, in the rise and fall of suns, in the count of sacred days, in the patience of the stars. When their civilization began to crumble during the classic Maya collapse between the 8th and 9th centuries, it wasn't because of prophecy. It was because their relationship with time began to fracture. Cities that once moved in cosmic synchrony fell into chaos. Overpopulation, drought, deforestation, and war tore at the heart of the empire. Royal courts that had once aligned battles and harvests to the heavens began to compete for dominance, ignoring the celestial order their ancestors had obeyed. As their power waned, so did the rituals that kept the cycle alive. Temples were abandoned, stelae left unfinished, calendars no longer renewed. Time didn't end. It slipped away. And yet, even in their downfall, the Mayas' worldview endured. They never claimed the world had failed, only that one age had completed its course. In their eyes, the collapse of a city was no more tragic than the setting of a sun. Another would rise, another age would come. This is what separates them from the rest of history's fallen empires. Where others built monuments to defy death, the Maya built calendars to record it. Where others worshipped gods of endings, they worshipped the continuity that made endings possible. They didn't mistake time for God. They understood that time was the language through which gods spoke. And when their stone cities were swallowed by the jungle, their cycle continued, unseen, unbroken, and waiting for rediscovery. When the world awoke on December 22nd, 2012, something curious happened. The headlines mocked ancient prophecy, calling it a hoax. The bunkers stayed empty, the sky unchanged. But while the modern world laughed at what it thought was superstition, the Maya kept counting, quietly, faithfully as they always had. Because the long count never ended. It simply reset. The 13th baktun gave way to the 14th, and the sacred wheel of days continued to turn. For the Maya, this was how it had always been. Time wasn't a line to be crossed, but a circle to be walked. You didn't reach the end of it. You met yourself again. In the highlands of Guatemala and the Yucatan, modern Maya priests still rise before dawn to greet the new sun with offerings of copal smoke and prayer. They still observe the Tzolk'in's sacred days, still listen to the stars for guidance. Their rituals are quieter now, their temples overgrown. But the clock still ticks, not in seconds or hours, but in breaths and stars, and the soft rhythm of the earth remembering itself. And as archaeologists decode ancient inscriptions and align ruins with celestial patterns, something profound becomes clear. The Maya never sought to predict the end of the world. They sought to remind it that endings are illusions. Even the fall of their cities, the silence of their stone courts, was not failure. It was a continuation in a form we could no longer recognize. If time is alive, as they believed, then it doesn't stop when civilizations fall. It migrates through language, through memory, through the hands of those who still remember how to count the stars. In that way, the Maya never truly vanished. Their empire still breathes in the spaces between our seconds, in every cycle we mistake for progress, in every pattern we forget we are repeating, because the calendar didn't fail. We did when we forgot how to read it. And so, while the rest of the world marked 2012 as an ending, the Maya saw what it truly was. The quiet beginning of a new age, the 14th baktun, the next turn of eternity's wheel. The clock never stopped. We just stopped listening for it. The Maya didn't fear the end. They feared forgetting. To them, the collapse of an age wasn't tragedy. It was obligation. A reminder that even gods must rest before rising again. When their calendar reached its great turning, they didn't await destruction. They awaited memory, the moment humanity would once again look up and remember that everything moves in rhythm. The stars, the seasons, the civilizations that bloom and fall like constellations across time. And perhaps that's why their ruins still hum beneath the jungle canopy. Their temples were built not as monuments to power, but as resonators, harmonizing stone with sky, eternity with echo. The jungle may have swallowed their cities, but not their mathematics, not their astronomy, not their truth. Because time itself became their legacy, a clock that measures not seconds, but survival. When the modern world mocked the end of 2012, it unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy. Not by ending, but by proving that humanity had once again mistaken meaning for myth. The Maya never said the world would die. They said it would change, and maybe, in that year, it did. Maybe it wasn't the world that ended, but an age of certainty, of linear thinking, of control. Perhaps time itself demanded a reset. Empires rise and fall, but memory is the only architecture that never crumbles. And the Maya, in their quiet brilliance, built theirs out of time itself, a kingdom that could only exist in motion, forever repeating, forever alive. We still live inside their measurement. Every sunrise that follows the next is proof that the old gods are still keeping count. And though their empire faded into vine and dust, the Maya remain what no civilization has ever truly achieved: a people who outlived time.